Most of us are afraid of something. Maybe you're afraid of bungee jumping, of commitment, of the dark, or maybe even of public speaking. Some of these fears might seem irrational to other people, but for those of us who feel them, they can be overwhelming and even stop us from doing the things that we would like to do or leading the life that we would like to have. Good evening, Toastmaster members and guests. My name is Ciara Murphy, and I certainly have a lot of fears myself. However, towards the end of last year, I came across a phrase from the acclaimed psychologist and author Susan Jeffers, who wrote, "Feel the fear and do it anyway." Maybe this is something that seems easier said than done, but I thought this is a challenge for me and one that I would like to do. So, at New Year's Eve 2022, I set myself a list of goals for what I would like to achieve in the coming year. All of these would be far too much to tell you in today's speech, but one of them was to feel the fear and do it anyway. So tonight I would like to share, 6 months in, how my progress on that was going. So, the first fear that I wanted to overcome was the fear of being alone. Because of the pandemic, I had spent a year and a half in pretty much complete social isolation. So the minute that those restrictions and rules regarding coronavirus were lifted, I threw myself into social interaction like never before. I filled every available moment with some kind of activity or some person. Every evening and weekend was filled with something. And as a result, I became reliant on other people for my happiness. I wasn't allowing time for myself. In those rare occasions that it was just me, alone in my room, I began to dislike it. I had grown afraid of being alone. With this in mind and my goal of feeling the fear and doing it anyway, over the past few months I have consciously made an effort to clear my schedule, to leave some evenings and weekends free just for me. And instead of spending time with other people, expecting them to entertain me, I am taking myself on walks. I'm bringing myself out for coffee dates. I'm going on little train trips alone. And finding out that my company is more than enough. As much as I still love spending time with other people, I am no longer afraid of being by myself. I've been feeling the fear and doing it anyway. The second fear that I wanted to overcome this year was of trying new things. I am very much the type of person who feels like I know my own skills, so why would I try and do something new when there's a risk that I might fail at them? Well, Ciara, because it might be fun. A couple of months ago, I attended my very first stand-up comedy show. And after I had watched 8 comedians take to the stage very bravely, there was a little voice in the back of my mind that said, I could do that. So perhaps a little bit naively, the next morning I sucked up my fear and randomly emailed a bunch of comedy clubs across Rotterdam inquiring as to whether they might be open for me to maybe do a slot at some point. To be honest, I wasn't really expecting a response, but kind of hoping that I would get one. And as it turns out, there was one comedy club willing to take a chance on me. So at the beginning of May, I did my first ever stand-up comedy show. I only told my 2 best friends, so then at least there would be 2 people in the audience willing to laugh at my jokes, even if they were rubbish. And on the night, hands shaking, heart racing, I stood up on that stage, I picked up the microphone, and I did my best. I knew full well that I might suck, but there I was, feeling the fear and doing it anyway. The third fear that I wanted to overcome was to do with public speaking. I know, maybe that sounds a bit strange to you because I really do love standing up here and giving speeches. But one thing that I would really like to improve with my speeches is the natural flow and spontaneity. If you've ever seen me present before, you might have noticed that usually I come on stage with a piece of paper. This might be notes, sometimes it's a full-on script, because I like to be prepared. Tonight, there's no paper. There's no notes. That's not right. No script. I had a title that I wanted to follow, and the hope that I could just come up on stage and speak to you about it for somewhere between 5 to 7 minutes. I'm going to be honest, I am very terrified standing up here. I do not do unprepared speeches with the exception of table topics, but tonight I wanted to feel the fear and do it anyway. It has taken me some time, but I realize now that a life lived in fear is probably not much of a life at all. As I stand here, I am still very afraid of a number of things, like spiders, and staying in the same place for too long, and a number of other things that I would like to work on overcoming over the rest of the year. But I can safely say that as of this moment, I am no longer afraid of being alone. I am no longer afraid of putting myself out there and hoping that people will laugh. And whilst I don't intend on making it a habit of coming up here unprepared, if the situation does arise, I know that I can present a Toastmasters speech, feel the fear, and do it anyway.